and I'll turn the music off. What's happening, everybody? Welcome to the Stronger, Deeper Marriage Show, where we have real conversations and to help people have stronger marriages. I'm so excited about our guest today, who is Nicole Hicks.
Hello, everybody that's watching us.
I'm Lucille Reddick, the harmony expert, helping couples create marriages filled with peace, purpose, and passion through intentional communication, emotional connection, and faith centered relationships. And I'm joined by my amazing co host, Patta Hall, who reminds us that strong marriages are built by caring for our minds, bodies, and spirits. Together, we're helping couples build stronger marriages, one real conversation at a time.
I love it. I love it.
Go ahead, Patta,
Yes.
introduce yourself.
Good morning, everybody. I am Patta Hall, the founder of True Patta Wellness, and I'm all about helping people be the best that they can be, especially in the seasons of our lives. I met Lucille a couple of years ago, and we just instantly bonded because we've both been married approximately 40. Well, she's married 40 years. I'm at 39. So we just initially bonded over that, and we're just very excited about being able to share our experiences and learning from our guest. So excited to
Absolutely.
be here today.
All right, then. So, as I said earlier, today's guest is Nicole Hicks, founder of Faith Over Fear Biblical Life Coaching, a Christ centered coaching practice that helps women move from fear based living into faith filled action. Through coaching, Bible studies, and group experiences, Nicole equips women to apply biblical principles to everyday life, relationships, and spiritual growth. She is also the author of The Heaven Team, A Child's Guide to Love, Loss, and Heaven.
Yeah.
Nicole and her husband, Kyle, have been married nearly 15 years and are passionate about building a marriage rooted in faith, intentionality, grace, and choosing each other every day. Nicole, welcome to the Stronger, Deeper Marriage Show.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. And this podcast is a little different for me because oftentimes I'm asked to come on and just talk about faith centered things. But this is my first podcast where we are exclusively dealing with relationships and marriage. So I'm excited to be here.
Oh, that is wonderful. So, we're going to have a very interesting conversation because um, we've all known someone who thought once we get married, and it might have been us, once we get married, they'll change.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's start there. I love
Okay.
this conversation, and my mind went somewhere else when you first talked about this title, and so
Mhm.
I was intrigued once you really unpacked it for me. So go ahead, let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Where did this "don't marry for potential" come from?
So absolutely. So first of all, again, thank you to Lucille and Pata for having me on your platform. I'm always humbled and honored when I have the opportunity to speak to other people's communities through their platform. So thank you for that. Just a side note, a little bit about me. Faith Over Fear Biblical Life Coaching has been live for about a little over a year now. It was birthed out of a place where I went through a very difficult and dark medical season that took me through all types of highs and lows. But ultimately, God had to work on me so that I could become the coach that is sitting in front of you today. And so, in my work, a lot of times, because I do coach exclusively women, we always talk about relationships. This past February, we talked about what's love got to do with it, the faith edition. And we talked about
Ooh.
if you run your relationship through God's definition of love that is found in Corinthians, would you still stay? Right. And so I worked with women and we unpacked this is God's definition. Now, does this line up with what you're seeing over here? And if so, if not, are you still going to stay? And one of the things that we talked about is the dangers of dating someone's potential. And you may be saying, what does that even mean? Well, a lot of times what we do is we sign up for what we think the person will become or who they might be and not actually who they are today. And that is not the way to approach it. Yes, people can change, but you cannot change anyone. That's a job for Jesus. I'm going to say that again. You cannot change anyone. That is a job for Jesus. And so when we enter relationships with the thought of 5 years from now, they'll clean up their credit, or they got baby mama drama, and we'll work all that out once we go down the aisle. Or I know they hop from job to job, but when we get married, I'm gonna find them a job. No, no, no. None of that might happen. It may, but it may not. You can't change them. That's a job for Jesus. And so when we are entering relationships, we have to be sure, are you okay if this person, if this is as good as it gets for 20 years, this might be the mountaintop, this might be the pinnacle. Are you okay with that? And that's what you need to enter into a covenant understanding, not what you wish somebody to be.
Whew, girl,
Wow.
let me say, I love that
Wow.
because it takes me back to when I first got married.
Mm-hmm.
I just knew that some things were gonna be a certain way, and when they weren't, I was so disillusioned and disappointed.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, that's what it is. Like, and it's I've been married 15 years, but I've been with my husband. It'll be 22 years, I think it is this year. So we got together in our 20s. So in that age range, you are still trying to figure out who you're going to
Figure
be,
it out.
going to become. And
Mhm.
so in those years, sometimes we do end up dating the potential, but you still need to be clear about the core attributes of this person. Like, if they've always been a liar, I mean, they may lie in the marriage. That's a job for Jesus. Like, you can't stop that. If they've always been bad with finances, that's not going to magically change just because you put a piece of paper in between the two of you. That's not how that works. So when I hear from women and they say, "I thought he would change." Why? Because a piece of paper was there, because you got on a white dress and he put a tux on? No. These are things that you need to have conversations about before you go down the aisle, or before you decide, I even want to get engaged. What does it serve you to be engaged to a person and spend all this money and have all these things for someone that you knew they were this way before you married them? That's a job for Jesus.
That is
Nicole,
absolutely a job for
so
Jesus. Go ahead, Pat.
I really love this topic. Don't marry potential. It's
Mhm.
really a wellness conversation too. When we ignore the red flags, we're not just making a relationship decision. We're overriding our peace, discernment, and sometimes our body gives us warning signs.
Yes.
But like you said, oh, I'm having this big wedding. It's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. We have to pay attention to the red flags from the very, very beginning.
Absolutely. And sometimes, and look, this might step on some toes, spoiler alert, this may step on some toes, but a lot of times as women, our timeline for our life and God's timeline very rarely line up, right?
Mhm.
And so when we feel like we are running out of time, when we feel like God has forgotten us, we've watched everybody else get a ring or go down the aisle, we tend to settle. Like, I mean, if we're honest with ourselves, we know that we're signing up for a fairy tale. We know
Mhm.
that these attributes of this person have always been there, but it's like, well, it's better than me being by myself. No, it's not. No, if it costs you your peace, it's too expensive. So, really, what you need to do is take it to God, ask Him to work on you, work on the person, and to be able to have the right person come into your life, even if it takes 5 years longer than you had in mind.
Well, now let me ask you a question. So, do you really think that we're having? Because if I think back, I didn't have that conversation with myself that, oh, I'm just going to settle for this. Do you think people are really women? Do you think they're
Yes.
having those conversations where they're saying, I'm just going to settle for this?
They don't say that, they don't use those words, but ultimately that is what you're doing when you sign up for that. But I do think there are a lot of women that I have heard from that say, I don't want to be alone. I'm
Mm.
scared to be alone. I don't want to be by myself. I'd rather have 20% of this than 80% of nothing. You know what I mean? Like, it's like sometimes people, especially as we get into a certain age, our biological clock starts to tick. And then people say, well, there's nothing out here anyway. This is as good as it gets. And sometimes we go into a space of, well, they picked me, because a lot of women really want to be chosen. We have a natural desire for us to be chosen. And so when a man chooses you, sometimes you just go with the man just because they chose you, but you don't talk to God about it. You don't ask him anything that you really should. You don't dive into those difficult conversations. And as life continues to show you things, you need to be real clear about who that person is going to be. It's fine when it's summertime and you're tipping through the tulips and everything is fine in life. But when sickness hits, when grief comes, when children come, when the money gets funny and you have more bills than money, all those different things, is this the person that you want by your side just because they chose you?
Oh my gosh,
Okay.
that is so interesting. It brings back a memory for me when my son was 7. He asked me, "Mom, why did dad choose you?" And I thought about that. I'm like, "Well, I chose him too." But it's just like you said, I don't know, it's innate. He's 7. What
Mhm.
does he know about anything? But he asked me that, and I kind of got offended because I was like, "Well, we chose each other." But he didn't ask me that question. He said, "Why did dad choose you?"
Right. Yeah.
Mm,
For sure, for
mhm,
sure. And that's our natural desire as women. And that's sort of the natural flow of things is that a man chooses us. There's a lot of controversy about would you ever propose to a man? And I'm not a advocate for that. But, if that works for you, so be it. But, ultimately, sometimes we do settle for people just because they picked us, especially if you're in a later age in life and you feel like time is running out for you. Sometimes we do settle for things just to say, I got a husband or I got
mhm,
a man too, because we don't want our whole life to go by and not find that person.
mhm. Well, Pata brings up a point when she mentioned red flags earlier. Are those the reasons that we're looking past those intelligent people would look past those red flags? They're not willing to have those difficult conversations with themselves or the person they're with?
I think it's a lot of different things. I think one, yes, we're scared of having the difficult conversations because we don't know what's on the other side of that, right? But also, sometimes people don't even think you should have the conversation. A lot of times, people wait until they are married to talk about, do you want to have kids? What's your credit score? What are your goals? Who do you want to be 5 years from now with me? And independent of me, right? Because I'm still, and catch this, ladies, if you're out there too, you cannot lose yourself just because you're in the marriage. You are still you, right? A wife is a role. That's right, clock it. A wife is a role that you play. A mother is a role that you play, right? If all those roles went away, who are you? Who are you?
Mhm.
Right? Because a lot of times those roles change, they may even fade. So who do you become? Who are you left with if all those roles go away? So you have to have some goals and aspirations independently as well. It could be something as simple as I want to read 100 books this year. Something that still defines you outside of the marriage.
Oh, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. I've talked to so many women who have lost who they really were by putting on use a different word for it, but the role I call them the hats.
Hats. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
the different hats that you got. I got on my mom hat today. I got on my wife hat. I work outside the home. I've got on my corporate hat. So
Mhm.
having all those different hats on it can be like having the juggling stuff up in the air and scared to let
Absolutely.
anything fall.
Yeah,
And then
absolutely. So
sometimes they get mixed up too, It's like, what hat am I having on today? What am I doing today? Because we're trying to be so many things to everybody before we're being anything to ourselves. So, like you said,
Hmm.
Coach Nicole, it's just, what would you tell our audience about like having those hard conversations from the beginning? Because I didn't have those hard conversations from the beginning. It took years and years some to have those conversations. So how do you even have those hard conversations when you're in that, you're in that yay, you're in that groove, you're in that, oh, I love this person. We're perfect. He's my soulmate. How do you even have those conversations?
yeah, well, this is don't put me off the podcast now, y'all. But I really
No.
think I really think the first conversation you have to have before you have it with your spouse is with yourself. And this is what I say to a lot of women. Did you pray to have the posture of a wife before you said yes to an engagement? Did you pray? Like, let's be honest. Like, as I'll be honest, I did not. I was, in my 20s, we were dating. He said, do you want to do this? I said, yes, that's off we go. Now, yes, we did have marriage counseling and all those other things, but I never prayed beforehand. God, give me the posture, give me the mind, give me the heart to become a wife, or to give me, I'm sure husbands, to become a husband. Like, make me right. And then we're so focused on what the other person is doing or isn't doing. But did you ever Ask God to fix you, to make you right, to be a wife before you go down the aisle. Because being a girlfriend and
Yes.
being a wife have totally different. And you all been in it almost my whole life. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yep.
really. So it takes a different type of mind frame, a different type of heart, a different type of understanding, grace, mercy, all of those things, sacrificing. So you have to have that conversation with yourself. A lot of times we get caught up in the dresses and the honeymoons and all these things that social media shows us is so pretty and cute. But at the end of the day, you have to sit in the marriage. And so as first we need to start with us and say, God, work on me. Before we
Mhm.
go down the aisle, work on me. Make me what you need me to be. Make sure you're reading over what God's definition of love is. It's patient, it's kind, it doesn't keep record of all those things. Are you ready to do that? It never gives up. Like, are you ready for those things? So work on you first. That's where you start. And then when you've got yourself together and God, sends some people your way, that's when you start to have those hard conversations. Sometimes dating is important, not just dating, but how you date. So if every date you are on, you go to the movies, you can't talk. There's
Mm.
no opportunity for that, or you're doing some type of activity where it might be fun, but you don't get an opportunity to converse. And sometimes you need to make sure when you're dating, especially in an age, when I was dating, cell phones were just kind of becoming, texting was just sort of becoming a thing, and we really didn't have social media that much back then. So now everything is social media, is swiping, it's texting, and so we don't communicate the way we used to, right? And I'm sure you ladies, when you were dating, it was just a landline phone, and that was it, right? And you had to
Absolutely.
ask permission to speak to. Remember, guys used to have to call and ask, "Hello, may I speak to so and so?" You know, so that's really, you need to reserve time to have those hard conversations and to ask that person everything about where their mind is and where they desire to be.
I love that. And thinking back, we had time because I dated my husband about 2 years before we got married. So we did have time to have a few of those conversations, and I got a chance to really know his heart.
Mhm.
So that's really what I would say to the audience, along with what you said. It's having that conversation with you. Are you, if I understand you correctly, are you ready to freely give that mercy and that grace when the person is being difficult?
Yeah, and I said love keeps no record of wrongs now. So listen,
You mean
you
to tell
know,
me? Wait a minute. You mean to tell me that 3 days that I wouldn't talk to him, that wasn't the right thing to do?
was not the right thing to do. The Bible also tells us, do not let the sun go down on your anger. So receive that as well, right? And look, we're not perfect. Yes, it's been days I didn't feel like speaking to my husband, or I didn't speak, or we may have hung up the phone a little, harder than we normally would. That's a part of life. But if you are really in it the way God is commanding us, if you will, to be in it, then you need to make sure that you can deal with your partner in all seasons.
Mm.
And that they are ready to deal with you in all seasons, so you could have money this month, and next year or next month you not have money. And your kids, you may aspire to have children, you could have them, but what if they come with special needs? Are you all prepared for that? Or your parents start to pass away, or your caretaker, all these different seasons. Are you going to face life with that person and still be able to keep God's biblical principles of love? Because
Yeah,
that's the other thing. We don't, these seasons of life are not an excuse for us to not keep God's commandment when it comes to love. You still have to be
absolutely.
patient. You still have to be kind. You still cannot let the sun go down in your anger. No matter how tired, burnt out, exhausted you may be, God still calls us to keep his principles. So is that
Yeah.
one you could do that with?
Perfect.
Mhm.
Perfect.
And
And
I
one of
like.
the
No, go ahead, Patty.
Go ahead.
I remember.
No, I was just saying, like, one of the strategies that I've learned to do, even in anger, in fierce anger, before we go to bed at night, I would say, I'm not ready to have this discussion yet, but good night.
Mhm.
So you don't go to bed with that so much on you. And that has seemed to work. And then it'll come a time, it might be the next day, it might be the next day. We say good morning. We've gone through those phases of not speaking for 3 days because that's just ridiculous. But I have to learn that, like you just
Yeah.
said, I'm not ready to talk about this now. Good night. And then a day or two, or, let's have this conversation.
Yeah, and that is key because that whole you may not wake up tomorrow is so true. Like I will tell you all, back in December, my mother-in-law passed away. And the crazy thing about this was a lot of crazy things, but the thing about this is when I talk about here today, gone tomorrow, it was a true situation with that. We had spoken to her the night before she passed. She was laughing and joking. Everything was fine. She was on the phone with my daughter. They were telling jokes to each other. She had no health problems. 3 a.m. She the next, in the middle of the night, she had a headache, which ended up being a stroke and a brain aneurysm that ruptured, and she passed away. She was gone 12 hours later. So when we
Wow.
talk about the last conversations that we have, especially before we go to bed or we leave the house, the next moment is not promised.
Promise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Somebody had a whole to-do list last night, didn't wake up today to do any of that. So even if there is conflict, you still want to end the day with grace and mercy, just like you said, Pata. It doesn't mean all your feelings might not be resolved. You might still have some residual things, but you want to be clear. Hey, this was not the best day that we had today. I'm still in my feelings a little bit, but I want to let you know I love you, and we're just going to go to bed. Or you have a disagreement, somebody has to leave the house. Listen, I just want you to know I love you and be safe. We'll talk about it later. But tomorrow really is not promised. So you need to be
Mm-hmm.
real clear about all of these conversations. You want to close them with intention, especially when you all separate.
I love that.
Perfect.
Yeah, no,
Yes.
I'm really
Yes.
only about 73% Christian. I'm working on that. So y'all pray for me. Uh so
Right behind you. Right
Look, you
behind
on
you.
you on the south side of heaven. That's what you said. You on the south side of heaven. That's where you gonna be when we get up there.
because
We
I'm still
working.
going.
We working.
I'm still learning how to have these conversations after even 41 years y'all of marriage. So, but I'm taking what
Yes.
y'all said. I'm writing it down. That's how I'm gonna be able to go to bed without anger, because I didn't have the language for this until we having this conversation today. Because I would have still like, because when I'm mad.
Yeah. But you have
But
to remember, and if you need conviction behind it, like how many times do you think God gets upset with us?
oh yeah.
Right?
Hmm.
And so
Right.
he still forgives us every day. That's what that grace and mercy is for. So if God can forgive us for all the things that we do that disappoint him and probably make him angry, we know he's a jealous God as well, and he has to compete with all these other things in our lives, and he still forgives us and gives us grace and mercy. Then if our heart posture is that of Christ, then we have to do the same. That's how we model it.
Okay. All right.
Perfect.
I love
Perfect.
that. I love that. So along with this, we're talking about, not marrying for potential, really um, being clear, or I guess going in with your eyes open about the person you are really signing up to do life with.
Mhm.
But what are a few warning signs that people should not ignore? I
Woo!
wonder if you have any
How
of
much time?
those.
How much time do we have? No, I don't. Well, I would say number one on the list is if they do not have a relationship, and I want you to hear me clearly. If they do not have a relationship with God the Father, and they do not acknowledge and accept that Jesus is their Lord and Savior, and that's also what you believe, then you cannot, I know people say I have different religions, but no, you cannot be unevenly yoked. You just cannot. Something I hear a lot with women now is people talking about, I believe in the universe. What is that? I don't know what that is, but that is not God. That is not Jesus. You need to be really clear on your religion matching. And if you are Christ led, then your partner needs to be Christ led. Keep in mind that the enemy came for Adam and Eve in the very first part of the Bible. Cain and Abel were not born. Their children, if you don't know that story, they were not born. It was just Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden, and then the snake came, which means if the enemy attacked marriage that soon in the Bible, I mean, there were many things he could have attacked. He could have attacked Adam when he was by himself, and it could attack Eve while she was by herself somewhere. But the way he did it to pit them against each other means that when you enter into that marriage covenant, it is now a higher level of spiritual warfare. That's how important marriage is to God. So you cannot go into that unequally yoked. How are you going to fight, the attacks of the enemy if you're not on the same page? So that would be my number one thing. Not being on the same page for children is another one. Children, if you want kids and he doesn't, that's not going to work out. Somebody's going to end up settling, and that's probably not going to work out. And a lot of times, sometimes that's people leave or they have affairs and just to have children. I've heard, those stories before. You need to be clear. But also, what happens if we try to have children and it doesn't work out, or it doesn't work out the way we intended? Are we enough for each other? Is that okay? So you need to have those conversations. 3, finances is a huge one. If you know you've got bankruptcies and repossessions and child support that you owe, taxes, you need to be honest. That doesn't mean the person's going to leave you. Maybe you all can have a plan to clean that up together, but you need to be very honest and transparent about your finances. And lastly, your goals. What do you want to do? Are you a homebody? You need to say that now. Or are you a person that likes to travel? You need to say that now. If you like to go out every weekend, if you like to buy, expensive things, if you like a sort of luxury lifestyle, whatever that is that you are now and where you aspire to be honest about that. Because some people, even things as simple as buying a house, right? You'll have people who get married and you hear buy a home, but some people don't want to do that. Some people want to rent forever. They don't want the maintenance with snow removal and lawn and things like that. That can even cause a conflict, y'all. So have the conversations about those 4 things that are really key, and then go from there. And then my last thing, which people don't usually like to talk about, what do you want to do when you die? Because I've seen people have conflicts about that. I want to be cremated. Well, I don't want you to be cremated. I want to come and visit you somewhere. I don't want your ashes around here. Like, it sounds trivial, but also, your wishes when you come to those end of life, what do you want? Or at least start to have those conversations. Because as I said a few minutes ago, life is not promised to any of us. So those would be the things I really say you have to lock in and have conversations about.
Wow.
I like these, and they go in line with. I have about 3 that I give when women ask me to. I work in children's ministry at my church, and when these young people grow up and they see me, Miss Lucille, you've been married so long. What can you tell me? Do you have any advice or whatever? And I have 3 things that I give them. Right along with yours, when you were talking about the unevenly yoked thing, I tell them, look, if you love the Lord, if you're a Christian, you should be with someone. And I mean, not just that they attend church. I mean, it should be evidence in their life that they love the Lord.
Right.
Are they, preaching on the corners or doing all that? No, but it needs to be some evidence that you would be able to see. Now, you brought up as your number 2 is whether they want children or not. I think that's important. And I might add that to my thing. That wasn't mine. My number 2 is what they do with their finances, which I think was number 3
That was
for
my
you.
3rd. Mm-hmm.
Because if you can look at about 6 months worth of finances, you can see where their heart really is. Do they like uh, big ticket toys? If is she a purse person, a shoe person? Like you said, if the person likes to travel and the other person doesn't like to travel, what they spend their finances on will really tell you where their heart lies.
Mm-hmm.
And then what I thought you said finances, goals, and then death. Now I've never heard that death conversation before, but
Right. Yeah.
I'm gonna look into that, and because I got it down, I'm taking notes too. I got notes for myself.
Yeah, me
But
too.
what I thought you was gonna say
What?
is you didn't bring up the sexual
That's what I
intimacy
thought you was
part.
gonna go there too.
Well, and that's an important one too. I kind of was thinking, in the times that we're in, you probably have figured that out already. That's something that we tend to spend time on is, our sexual preferences, but that is important as well. If you are into things that he's not into and vice versa, or he desires to get married and then do things, under the covenant of marriage, which you shouldn't do, but I'm not here to, to condemn you. I'm just giving you the practical tips. But yes, those are conversations if you haven't had those already. But I notice more people spend time on things like that because they feel like the way to keep a man, especially, is to please him,
Oh,
or
okay.
to keep a woman is to please her. And I hear people that go in these gas stations and they take all these little pills and they have these little fantasy boxes and things like that. And a lot of people, y'all laughing at, I'm serious. Look, a lot of people spend
Gas
a lot of
station
time
bill.
Listen, there are
We got
pills in the
pills at the
gas station. Listen, this is not a promotion for this, but yes, there are pills in gas stations. You when you go up, you see them. If you go in the gas station, you'll see them right there at the counter, and that's what they are made for. They are for intimate enhancing and things like that. So people tend to spend a lot of time on stuff like that because they think that is core to keeping their relationship when ultimately it's not about that in the long run. So that's why I
Mhm.
didn't mention that. But yes, if that's not something you've talked about, or if you are saving yourself for marriage, which is always, admirable and things like that. Yes, have those conversations so that
Mhm.
you can be ready for that going into the marriage. Absolutely.
Absolutely. And then the other side, what I want to bring up is if you are not a person who particularly likes intimacy like that, and your partner does, you should consider that because y'all are not evenly matched on the
Mhm.
desire for that type of thing. So those are the conversations I think that people need to have and think about
Yeah,
really upfront. Because if
I
he likes it a
agree.
lot, or you like it a lot, and he's just like, I can do it or not do
Right,
it, you know?
be like, "Don't touch me, stop," like, yeah.
Right, right. And you're right. And also what are the different types of intimacy that you like? Because, you may like something, but he doesn't like to do that. Or vice versa. Then what
Mm,
happens,
yeah.
But then
Mhm.
also, have the conversations about what happens when that is not the priority anymore. Kids come,
Mhm.
and then you could have health challenges where that's just
Mhm.
not really on the agenda anymore. And what does that mean? What, you still have to find ways to maintain your intimacy, whether that's, cuddling or snuggling or whatever that looks like for you. But that's why I say you have to be ready for this person in all seasons of life, not when it's just everything is fine and happy, but all seasons
All
of
seasons of life.
Can you say
Absolutely.
that one more time? Because that really needs to be stressed. All seasons,
all
all seasons,
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 all seasons of life. Okay. These ladies on here have not made it 40 years without seeing their partners in all seasons of life. And guess
seasons.
what? Life is not finished yet. My
Mhm.
grandmother had the saying, if you live long enough, you will see these things. So life is not finished yet. And so you need to be knowing this person can be with you in all seasons. I remember I was very, very ill in 2024, which I alluded to in the beginning. And my husband really had to take care of me, but also step up and be Mr. Mom, Mr. Dad, if you will, right? He was doing everything, all the cleaning, taking care of our child, taking care of me, all the grocery shopping, taking her to her after school activities. I mean, all the things. And that hit
Mhm.
us out of nowhere. I didn't have any history of medical issues. And that went on for months and months and months. Is that someone that you think can care for you in those difficult seasons? Or, his mother passed away and now I am walking him through grief. So,
Mhm.
suddenly we didn't have time to prepare and now we're funeral planning and all these things. Are you ready to walk through life with that person?
Mhm.
Or before we had our daughter, we lost a son. Are you ready to walk through that type of season, with your partner? So, I'm just sharing some of the things in my life because I'm always transparent, but it's not always going to be happiness. It's not always going to be going on trips and living your best life, as we say. Life is going to, show us some things. And if you don't think that's a person that can support you, and you don't think also that you can support them the way they need in all seasons, like we said, Pat, all seasons,
Seasons.
Mhm.
marriage is not for you, or at least not to that person.
Absolutely. So I'm thinking back when you were talking about that your husband had to step up and care for you during your health issue, your health crisis. I'm thinking about my husband if there was something that he had to step up and do the housework. Um, I don't know. I think we'd have to hire somebody.
Well, you know what though? You know what though? You never know what they can do till they have to do
Till
it.
Until
they have to do it.
have to
I'm be
do it.
honest with you because I kind of thought that too because I'm always the one that cleans and cooks and everything. But a lot of times that's us babying them a little bit. We got to push them a little bit to do some things too. And so when he was able to rise to the occasion. But
Tasia, oh what?
I would have never known that though if I hadn't really gotten sick. I mean, he was always, what do you need help with? What do you want me to do? But to be able to run that whole thing, making lunch in the morning and all. I said, "Oh, you got this. You got this."
Ooh.
So when I got
Yeah.
better,
Uh-huh.
some things I never took back. I'm like, "You got this. You can do it. Doing it better than me in some ways. Go for it."
Right. Oh, I love that. I love that.
But
And it
like you
was
said, it's all in building that foundation from the beginning. When you ask those hard questions, you're actually building the foundations that will sustain you through those various seasons of life. I had an illness too, and my husband has always been the better cook, the better cleaner. He's good with the kids from day one, so that's never been an issue. We can do that probably still better than me. But anyway,
Yeah,
like you said, when you ask those hard questions, it just prepares you because we don't know what's around the corner. We just don't know. And if you don't
absolutely.
have that foundation, you can't sustain, you have your faith. That is your foundation, and that connection that you have with God, and that connection that you have as a couple with God. But if you don't
absolutely.
take time to build that foundation, when these things happen, you may or may not sustain them.
And then
Absolutely.
you be looking for a way out. So
Right. And then you say, that show Who Did I Marry? Well, you married, you just didn't ask the right questions. But this is who you married. And then, a lot of times ignorance is bliss. It's like if I don't ask the question, then I don't have to deal with the answer. But
Answers.
that's part of it is, as women, we cannot live in these fairy tales in our minds about people. And as men, you cannot either. You need to ask the hard questions. The other reason that I say always ask questions is when we talk about the dating potential, you have to know that the enemy listens to your prayers too. And this is something people don't really think about. But okay, I'm a single woman and I'm praying for a marriage. I'm praying for a husband, right? Well, the enemy listens to your prayers too. Just like we know the enemy quoted scripture back in Jesus before he went to the cross. You have to remember, if you don't know the story of Lucifer, he used to be an angel. He was cast out of heaven, and he was the angel that was over worship. When he left heaven, he took a third of the angels with him, and that becomes the demons that we have here with us today that we deal with. And so Satan is not omnipresent like God. He can't be everywhere at the same time. But of course, demons and things listen to us and listen to our heart's desires, just like God is listening. So let's say I'm a single woman and I'm praying for a husband, and then let's say a week later I meet this guy at the coffee shop. Girl, he is everything I prayed for. He is tall, dark, handsome. He's got a little swag. He's got a little charisma. He's taking me out on these dates at these places that I post on social media that I love to go to. I mean, we are doing the thing, right? Then, we get together and we move in together. I haven't asked him anything because he's checked all the boxes that I have seen thus far, and so we move in together, start a life together. Maybe we get married, things like that. But then you find out, a year from now that, when you want to buy your house, he can't get it with you because he's already had, two foreclosures. And, when you go to have children and you go to do all these things, now you find out, wait, you're already paying child support for a child that's 16 or you just didn't tell me about because they're older. And, you're like, but God, wait, I thought I prayed for a husband. I thought you sent me this person. And God would say, but did you ask me if that was the person? Because
Mhm.
that's how we end up dating and going in cycles with the wrong people, because the enemy listens to you as well. The enemy will send people to you trying to get to convince you that this is the right person. But remember, the enemy comes to kill, steal, and destroy. So if any
mhm.
of those things begin to start happening in your relationship, it was not sent by God. This is also how we end up in things like jobs that are the same wrong jobs for us. You get a job and it seems like it's great, but now the hours are too much. They're short staffed. The people don't like you. The supervisor's out to get you. And you're like, how do I keep getting these jobs? Because the enemy also listens to your heart's desire and he will flirt with you with potential and with all these things that look like they are God sent, but they are not. So you always
Mhm.
have to say and be really intentional. God, is this person sent from you? Was this job sent from you? Was this opportunity, did it come from you? Because God will show up and he will answer and he will make it clear. And if he don't tell you yes, you need to swipe the other way and keep it moving.
Mm.
But that is something people forget about. The enemy is not, he's playing in our love lives, he's playing in our jobs, he's playing in all aspects of our lives. So he doesn't want you to get to that happy place.
Exactly.
He said, no,
Exactly.
it's all spiritual, and he will do things like that to play in your relationships.
I know years ago I was talking to a friend of mine, and she was praying for her husband and everything, and this guy that came on the scene, and she was spending some time with him to get to know him and everything. And I told her, I said, look, sometimes Satan send the wrong one right before God send the right one, and right after she got him out of the space, then God sent the right one into the space. So that is so true about what you said, that the Satan comes to steal, kill, and destroy. I'm gonna ask you another question in a bit, but I want to back up to something you said too when you were talking about your list here of conversations and red flags to not look over. Uh, and this might be just for me, but for the people who's out there, because I know there's some other people out there like me. Like my, I'm not I'm not talking about my husband with something he don't know. I did a whole TED talk about don't focus on the socks. My husband is messy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
He not trying to be. He is just that is not on his mind. He be moving so fast. I mean, he just leave devastation in his wake. The kitchen just he's a wonderful cook, but that kitchen be messed up when he get finished. It look like, well, how did you put flour way over here?
Woo.
How did you drop this? But this is the thing when the young people ask me, and I tell them, to not be unequally yoked and to look at the finances. My number three is I tell them, look, if you're a neat person and that person is not neat, now this don't have to be a deal breaker. I say, but you need to know going in. So that's that acceptance piece that you were talking about,
Yeah.
accepting the person and really going in with not the fairy tale, but your eyes wide open. Because look, yes, my husband is messy. Does it get on my nerves? Yes, it does. Do I love him in spite of it? I do.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah, and that listen, those are all important things to talk about. Like if you're a neat freak, you gotta call that out and say, hey, I like a certain, because some people are you like this, Lucille, where you have to have order and things have to be placed a certain way. Is that how you are?
I am, yeah. Every place has a home, and I like for things to be in their place. I'm
Yeah,
not I'm not the neat free place person, but
okay.
I do like structure and order. Don't leave
Organization.
don't
Yeah,
leave your shoes in here. Take them with you when you go to the bedroom.
yeah.
That
So
was a big point of contention with me and my husband when we were younger because I was messy. Just take your clothes off, pile of clothes here. Oh, I'll put them up. I was so messy, and he would just he would lose his mind. Like, just hang this stuff up. What do you?
yeah,
That was
what are
a
you doing?
really big. We knocked heads. I'm like, I'll get to it. What's the big deal? Why are you tripping? Like, it's just clothes. Oh, I'm doing this. He's just like, no. When you take it off, hang it up.
Hang it up. Yeah.
So that was
So I'm gonna tell
definitely
you, this is not. Don't do this. But this is what my husband was messy. He's gotten a lot better now. But his thing would he would never hang the towel up. So every time he would get dressed and he would get out the shower and just like set the towel over here somewhere. And by the time I would get home and see the towel, it would be all like not fresh. So I would just start putting all the towels in the laundry basket. Till finally it was no towels, and he was like, "What I'm gonna dry off with? I don't know because the towels are not clean." I don't know. I guess you'll need to air dry. Go sit by the fan. After a few weeks of that, he started hanging his towel up. Another one he doesn't like to do is, and these are things he knows too, Lucia. Put the top on the toothpaste. So then I started buying the toothpaste one that the flat. All you gotta do is clip the little flap. Just
But they
flatten it.
still don't do it.
Still don't do
Does
it.
he
You
do
know what I
it?
do? Throw the toothpaste away. Throw it away. And I would just keep my own toothpaste so that I wouldn't tell him I had my own toothpaste. Again, don't try this at home. These are just things that I
No, ladies, we are giving them real tips for how to
yes,
last
yes,
41
yes,
years because I
yes.
have my own toothpaste too.
right.
Look,
And then
I,
suddenly he said, "No, I have any
Me too.
toothpaste." I said, "Well, you kept leaving it open. It would get, disgusting. I had to throw it away." So now he closes up the toothpaste and we have a shared toothpaste tube. But it took us a little while to get there. So,
no, we do not. We have not made it there. I have my
oh
toothpaste on my side of the bathroom, and I'm telling you, you can still be married 41
man.
years
Yes.
and have your own toothpaste over here,
Right.
and he can have
Yes,
his own over here that he's letting get
yes.
dry and crusty and everything.
Yeah. God bless you. Just, on your
And
journey.
guess what? When I see them on sale, I buy 10 boxes. And
There
when
you
they-
go. There you go. Yeah.
so, because I
Yeah.
know he gonna run through his real quick because it gets dry and crusty. And
Yeah. Yeah. There you go. Now
Oh
I will tell
gosh.
you what, we do have separate comforters. We have separate now we sleep in the same bed, but we have separate comforters because he said that I always take the covers and the comforters, and he's always cold. But then if I have a hot flash in the night, then I don't want the comforter and I just throw everything, whatever. So we have like a shared comforter, but then he has his own too, because that way he says he knows he's warm all night. Now, sometimes you have to do things like that too in different seasons. We didn't start that way,
Absolutely,
but
yes.
as things change and your bodies change and what's comfortable, you have to continue to have those conversations too. So I think, Lucille, even when we're talking about the conversations before marriage, you have got to keep communicating, because
Conversations going.
the person I was when we got married in our 20s, and now I'm in my 40s, I'm a completely different person. So,
Mhm.
we have to continue to have those conversations about what works for me, what doesn't, what I need, and what isn't as important as it used to be 10 or 20 years ago.
oh, absolutely. I love what you're saying. Those are some important lessons to learn before marriage and after marriage, because you still gotta, like you said earlier, and Pat emphasized it, the seasons, all of the seasons of marriage, because you're constantly changing. And it might be because when I went back to college, now I was 50 years old. I waited till my youngest daughter graduated college and I went back to college. And so now I'm in college and our work schedules are off. So I have a separate bedroom
Okay.
because he was working at night, I was working in the daytime, and we needed to have that separateness for peace and everything. And some people might will say, well, oh, that's just got to be terrible. No, we love it.
Right. Well, sleep. Right. Sleep. Because who will you all be if you're just trying to subscribe to this? We have to share the bed, but we're exhausted. We're sleep deprived. Now
We're
we're biting
sleeping
each
in the
other's
morning.
heads.
Uh-huh.
Absolutely.
Like, that's not going to work. You have to do what is best for you. You have to do that.
Absolutely. And it doesn't have to look like anybody else's marriage. You make your marriage what it needs to be for you. And we go visit each other in the separate bedrooms.
Yeah.
So it makes it
Right.
so much fun.
Yeah, because guess what? It doesn't say in the Bible you have to have the same toothpaste or you
The
have to have
same
the same
bed.
bed. It doesn't say that. That's not part of God's definition. So whatever you need to do that works for you, that's what you need to do. And when we talk about having those conversations throughout marriage, you have to be clear who you are becoming too, because you
Mhm.
cannot expect your partner to meet your needs and to meet your wants, but you don't really know what they are yourself and can't communicate
Right.
them. So sometimes you have to sit with yourself and have some self-reflection, say, who am I becoming? Who am I
Mhm.
now that I wasn't, 5 years ago? Or, what is this season? What is important to me in this season? And also have your partner do that. And that's where you share those things.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Absolutely. The
Um,
conversations, I would say this, the hard conversations continue.
Yeah.
They
yeah,
never, they
Yeah.
never stop.
they never stop.
They never
Mhm.
stop. Getting married is the easy part. Staying married is the challenge.
Is the challenge. Yes. Is the challenge. Absolutely.
So
Yes.
I'd love to switch this conversation from because we talked about preparing for marriage. Now we're kind of moving into the thriving for marriage. So you wrote something in I can't remember whether I saw it in your bio or anything, but your spouse is not your audience; they're your partner. Do you remember writing that?
I do.
I said this is powerful. Tell us about a little bit more about what that means.
So I think that you have to remember that, we talk about life as sort of a display that you're on, right? And if you're on display every day, whether it's as a mom, as a wife, if it's a career person, your partner is with you and is partnering with you in this display. But if you're putting on a show, if you will, right, it shouldn't be for your partner. They should be involved in that with you. They're not your audience in that way, so to speak. And so sometimes we wear masks. right? Like almost like we're in a play and we're not really honest with our partner about who we are. Sometimes we'll show the world things about ourselves and we don't even show them to our partner. So you always
Mhm.
want to remember it's us together in all things. Even if there's a problem, we're fighting it together. If we need to put a mask on, then we got to put that on together and go out into the world. But I shouldn't be showing the world a part of me that I don't show my spouse. And so we really
Mhm.
have to attack everything together. I know that's something I had to grow into is we're fighting the problem together, but we're not fighting each other. If I can show this part of me to other people and be vulnerable with other people outside the home, if they're my audience there, then I should be able to show you that same part of me in the house as well. So it really just goes back to, showing yourself and being vulnerable and realizing
Mhm.
that you really are a team. When the Bible says you become as one, if something bad happens, you're fighting that together, but you're not fighting each other. In
Mhm. That's so important. I remember saying that we're getting people to understand that you're on the same team.
Yeah.
What happens to me happens to my partner. What happens to my partner happens to me. We're on the same team. So why are we fighting? I
Why
want some,
are we
sometimes I
fighting?
wanted to fight for, I want to be right about this. Well, okay. eh, What if I'm right about that? And I guess it could go back to that analogy, winning the battle but losing the war.
Right.
Or,
Right.
but like you
Yeah.
said, Lucille, sometimes being you're on the same team, a lot of times women are competing with their husbands
What do you mean by that?
on many levels. I mean, years ago, my godmother told me when I was young in my marriage, she said, "Stop competing with your husband." And I'm like, "What are you talking about? This is crazy. I can't compete with
Hmm.
with him. He's bigger than me. He's stronger than me. He makes more money than me. How am I competing with him?" She
Yeah.
said, "I'm gonna teach you biblically about a wife."
Hmm. Hmm.
And she would mean let him lead if he's respecting you, respecting her household, doing what's right for you and the family, you know, she said walk beside him, not in front and definitely not behind.
Correct.
But walk
And
Mhm.
walk
that's a hard
beside
thing.
him. Don't try to up him or anything. If you're
Mhm.
smarter than him, it's just
Yeah.
you are a team. You are walking together.
That's
And
right.
Mhm.
it
That's right.
took me years to learn that because in my mind, I'm competing with him. But she saw this in me, and it took me years to be like, wow,
Yeah, and it's
Mhm.
for women that, especially if you've been in a season of singleness for a long time, and you have that I can do bad all by myself, or I don't need a man, I want a man mentality, and you're used to doing everything. When you finally do get into a relationship, a lot of times we bring that masculine energy into the relationship, and it may be, unintentional, but it's always like a pocket check or a check of, I'm independent, I'm this strong independent woman too, and it may not even be something you're conscious about, like you said, Pastor, but other people can notice it.
just
And so
notice it. And
yes, as wives, we are called to submit. That does not mean that you don't have a voice or you don't have a say, but you do let the husband have his rightful place to lead and to lead your household. Which also, if you don't have a man that can lead and you're not a woman that can submit, neither of you are ready for marriage.
Mm. I love that
that's
part.
it right there. And that's something that I had to learn because, it's like, he ain't, no, no, what are you talking about? He ain't telling me what to do. And, going through all that, but really learning and reading and studying the Bible and
Mhm.
understanding that relationship, that covenant
Yes.
between you and your husband. You're saying more than I do, you
Yes.
know,
Mhm.
and
Yes.
that's a process. You don't know
Yeah.
that overnight. It's just a process, but you have to create that foundation and continue to work building on that foundation, which is the process. So I love what you're saying about being intentional.
Yeah.
That's
Mhm.
You
huge because
gotta
a
be.
lot of times, sometimes, and we shrink to fit, we shrink ourselves
Yeah.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
we be in that relationship.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna be vulnerable, y'all. I was that independent person, and I would say Early in our marriage, now y'all pray for me. I would say, I don't need you. I work. I don't need you. But when I look back at that and I cringe, and I don't know what brought it to mind that that is something that as a woman, and I've heard it on a couple of different podcasts with people saying, I now, I don't need no man. Yeah, you're not gonna die. None of us are gonna die if we don't have a man. But why would you say that?
Right, right. Why would you say that? Exactly. Why would you say that? Or why would that why is that the stance that you feel like you want to take? Why is
Yeah,
that what you feel like you want to say? You're
and how does that
absolutely
make him feel? Men are ego driven. By the
right.
most part, I know I'm generalizing, but by the most part, men are ego driven. And if you sit up there saying, "I don't need you," well, then he's thinking, "Well, what am I here for?" A man needs to feel needed.
He does. Yes. And
He
but I
needs to have that he has a place in your life.
typically when I see that, because I think it's a cultural thing, and this is something that we talk about a little bit in with other coaches, but in other cultures that are not African American, we don't see that, we don't hear that as much from women.
Mm,
Actually, they don't sort of have that mentality to think, well, I don't need a man and I got my own money. All of us probably were told, you keep a little piece of money on the side in case something goes wrong. They're not raised that
Yes.
way.
Yes.
I'm
mhm.
saying, like, they're
Yes.
not raised to have the
Yes.
backup plan. Like, the man is the plan, point blank, period. They don't plan for disaster or feel like they have to assert themselves in any kind of way. But as African American women, a lot of times that's how we were raised or what has been in our culture because of a lot of
Mhm.
our relationships and how they have happened, right? Or the failing
Mhm.
of, or we know, Uncle Joe, he had a family on this side and family on that side. And I'm not saying that doesn't happen in other cultures, it absolutely does. But
Yeah.
it's almost like that institutionalized sort of trauma that we have from relationships is passed down to our women generationally. And so it's always like, you got to have a little piece of money. You got to tell them you don't need them. You can leave and we can come get your stuff today. But that's really not how it is. If I'm really trusting God with this person, obviously things can happen. But if I'm trusting God with this person and I say I'm gonna be all in and I'm gonna do all these things the Bible says, then there can't be room for that part. It can't be room for
Mhm.
that. I can do it myself and I don't really need you. I'm in this because I want to be, and I got this over here. If you don't want to be with me, I can take care. We have to let that go. That's pride. And we have to let
Mhm.
that go. We have to really
Mhm.
submit and say, I'm in it for the long
Mhm.
haul, and I'm committed to it, and we're going to do this thing together. Is not even an I anymore. There's no I in team anyway.
Right. Yes.
Exactly.
Exactly. So I know we're getting close to our time here. Pata, I know you wanted to add your perspective on the health and wellness part of it. So do you want to go ahead and transition to
Sure.
that?
Sure. So my wellness minute for this episode is like, here we go. So
Okay.
today's conversation is such a powerful reminder that strong marriages are not built on fantasy. They're built on truth, faith, commitment, and daily choices. And from a wellness perspective, I hope everyone remembers this. Your health, physically, emotionally, and spiritually, affects every relationship you have, especially your marriage. When we care for ourselves, we show up with more patience, more clarity, more compassion, and more capacity to love well. And when life gets hard, those healthy habits help us, they give us something to stand steady on. So this week, I encourage couples to check in with each other, not just with how was your day, but with how is your heart? How is your body? How is your spirit? And how can I support you better? Because caring for the whole person helps build a stronger, deeper marriage.
I love it. I love it. And
Yes.
if my husband was here, I would ask him. He's in the yard right now working though, but he has this alarm clock that goes off on his phone every day at 11 a.m. and it just says wife check. And no matter what he's doing at 11 a.m., he checks on me. Now, I could be working, he'll send me a text message. He could be working, he'll send me a text message, or he'll call me, or if we're together, he'll say, "Oh, wife check." And so that's his little intentional time every 15 at 11 o'clock for 15 minutes to just check on me and see how I'm doing. And then what I typically do is at the end of the day, before we're getting ready to go to bed after dinner, I'll say, is there anything that you want me to know today that you didn't share with me already? It could be anything. It could be something you saw on TV, or it could be I had a really bad day at work, or you hurt my feelings earlier. But I want to give him that space to tell me whatever it is. That space is dedicated for him, and he dedicates space for me. And so when we talk about intentionality, a lot of times we say, "Oh, we're so busy, we can't do these things." No, if you want to, you will.
You
If you
will.
want to, you will.
You
You
will.
will.
You make space
Hmm.
for everything else that's important to you. If it's important to you, be intentional, make space to check in on your partner, and make space to check in on yourself. Especially as
Hmm.
women, we talked about the roles and the hats that we play. Sometimes we're wearing 3, 4 hats at a time. Make time to check in on yourself. How are you doing? And make sure you can convey if you need help, if you're struggling, if you feel like you're falling into a dark place, that sometimes you can when we're wearing so many things, that you can get the help you need from your partner or others as well.
I love that. And I love that you are using technology to be intentional about that, because we have technology. We could use it for a number of things. And that's something somebody might not would think of, is to just set a reminder in their phone to check on their partner.
Mhm.
Because I mean, who doesn't want to receive a text or
I
something,
was just about to say that's just like a wonderful, like, yes.
yeah, just send a little
Yeah,
text. My
it's
husband,
simple. It's
and I
simple.
know my husband is going to call me. We have a farm. He's gonna call me on his way home from the farm and ask me, "Do you need anything from the store?" I know when I see that call come through, I know exactly what it is. I'll even wait. I'll be like, "You know what? I'm cooking. I need something. I can get Donnie to get it when he's on his
Yep.
way from the store."
Yep.
But that's being intentional, setting up those patterns that kind of make you reliable and being steady about things and stuff like that. Something else I want to say about using technology, or even a calendar or whatever. Um, but putting time for like a date night. Say, for instance, you have kids or something like that, or you have other responsibilities. Maybe you're a caregiver or something like that. You don't want to let those responsibilities take you away from that togetherness time that you and your partner need to be having. So I advocate for people putting it on the calendar. If it's every
Mhm.
Friday, every other
Yeah.
Friday, whatever it is, and intimacy. If because some of the seasons in our life have been busy,
Yes.
and we didn't want that to get away from us, and so we put it on the calendar. Now, I know some people may say, "Well, that don't leave nothing for spontaneous."
It's fun. Yeah.
It's it don't it may not leave moments for spontaneous, but guess what it does do? It let me be in my mind be ready
Right.
and help me pray to get myself in that space. Because
Absolutely.
sometimes you be busy, and I'm just gonna speak as a woman.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the last to do that I
Be on
want to
my mind.
do.
Right.
You
Right.
know what?
Exactly.
I'm ready to go to sleep.
Right.
But
And
I
that you're pouring into me, because that is something, these are things that we're still working on, because we both work full time. We have an 8-year-old. I'm an entrepreneur as well. And so, and then life is just busy, right? There's just
yeah,
so many things going on. And so we're trying to honor, at least a date night or two a month. But we schedule them. So like, it's the same way I'm scheduling doctor's appointments and things like that. I'm like, okay,
that
well,
part.
and so I
That's
know
what I'm saying. Yep.
some people
We
say, well,
put
I don't
everything else on
have.
the calendar.
Right. Some people say, "Well, I don't have a sitter." Okay, well, see if you can find one, or maybe do something where your child can go to one portion and you guys can go to another portion. Even if it's a park and they play on the playground and you can keep an eye on them, but you guys sit and talk for 20 or 30 minutes, but something, and get out of the house. Now, this is the one I had to learn: get out of the house. The date night cannot always be in the house. You
House.
cannot
It's
just
Mhm.
be
gonna be in
watching a
the house.
movie. Get out the house. You need to be outside, do something fun, be in the fresh air, be social, but get out of the house. When you're in the house, a lot of times you're gonna fall asleep. You're gonna just get on your phone and scroll. Somebody else is gonna
Mhm.
call you. Get out of the house and make time for you all. And yes, even with the intimacy, we have had to schedule that. There is no shame in that. We have done
Mhm.
that. Sometimes we still have to do that. So there's nothing wrong with that. It might happen when the date night is, or it might be some separate times, but get that on the calendar too.
Yeah.
And even like I said, intimacy looks different for everybody. So if it's not, the way in a traditional sense, then cuddle, then snuggle, then do something with some candles or get in the bathtub. That all the different things that you can do, but you still want to remain connected. So those are things even I do now, and I'm in my 40s. But we got to do what we got to do.
We got to do
Do
what
what
we
you
got to
gotta
do.
do. What you gotta do. That's what I say. Keep that train moving in the right direction, right?
That's right. That's right. That's right.
So I love how today's conversation reminds us that healthy marriages require us to care for the whole person, body, mind, spirit, and relationship. So, Nicole, every episode, we want to leave our audience with one conversation that they can have this week. So, here's my heart to heart question. If every couple listening tonight sat down after dinner, what's one question that they should ask each other that could strengthen their marriage?
I would probably say the question to ask is, how can I serve you today?
How can I serve
Because
you today?
we are called to serve one another. We know that Jesus, when he was here, he served. And that's why it's important to know your word, not just to know it just because it is the Bible, but really the things that Jesus did while he was here really modeled how we are supposed to be for one another. And so he served those who liked him and even those that didn't. And so we really are, called to serve one another, even in marriage. So the question, how can I serve you today? When you hear it, it's like, well, I don't want to serve him, but that is what you're called to do. And that doesn't mean he's going to say, I need you to go do 50 loads of laundry, but he may say, hey, I have a meeting coming up, in a couple days, and I didn't have a chance to take it to my stuff to the dry cleaners. Can you take it for me? Or sometimes I might say to my husband, I need you to listen to me and not give me advice.
That part.
I just need you
Mhm.
to hear me. That's how you can serve me today. I just need to vent, but I don't want to hear. I don't want you to fix it. I just want you to hear me. Or I
Mhm.
need 15 minutes just to do nothing. Like I don't want the kids talking to me, nothing. Or I need to go for a walk. My husband, so he's the person that I give him space when he comes home from work. He sits in the car for like 20 minutes because he
Mhm.
has a longer commute. He works 12-hour shifts, excuse me. And so sometimes he just needs to decompress a little bit more when he comes home. It's nothing wrong with that. But ask the person,
Mhm.
how can I serve you today? And different things like that. And then when you're having disagreements and arguments, one that I always say is, if they're not understanding you, instead of saying, you're not listening, no, they are listening. They're participating. They're not understanding, but they are listening, right? Otherwise, you wouldn't be disagreeing. So ask them, how can I make this clearer for you so that you can understand me? How can I make this clearer?
Mhm.
What can I say or do so to get you to understand what I'm saying a little bit more? So those would be the questions I would ask. And the last thing I want to add to Lucille is when we talk about our childhoods and how that impacts our marriages, if you think back to your own childhoods, your approach to marriage a lot of times has to deal with, we talked about this, how you were raised, those generational things that were passed down to you. And if you have children, whatever your marriage is and how you are modeling that, your children see. So if you have bad habits now where you're, fighting or you're arguing or you don't make space for date nights or, you don't cuddle or kiss or hug in front of your kids, realize that that's what your children are seeing. And when they go out to seek a partner, they are going to base it off of what they saw in the house. So it is important that you are modeling those good behaviors, that you are being Christ-like when it comes to your marriage. And that means sometimes showing the good and the bad. Sometimes my husband and I have disagreed in a healthy way in front of our daughter because I don't want her to think that marriage is always going to be tipping through the tulips. It's not. But she also sees us hug, us kiss, to say it's romance time. That's her little thing that she says. But those are healthy things that our children need to see so they can find healthy partners as well.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
Absolutely. Yes.
So, Nicole, how can our listeners connect with you?
Absolutely. So the easiest way and the fastest way is social media. I am Faith Over Fear Biblical Life Coaching on all social media platforms. So Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. I'm on all those platforms. Again, Faith Over Fear, Biblical Life Coaching. If you want to connect with me a little bit more as far as one-on-one coaching or speaking engagement, something like that, you can always click the links in the bio of any of those social media platforms, or you can email me at faithoverfearsis@gmail.com, and you can connect with me directly that way.
I love that, faithoverfearsis.com. So tell me a little bit. You also have a book,
I
The Heaven
do.
Team.
I do. The Heaven Team. I got it right here. So
Um,
this was and this is what I always say to people, and I know that's not the part of this podcast, but when you really go through things, is God is not just trying to make you, be tortured and make you angry. He's always up to something. So I came out of that really difficult medical season I talked about. I became certified as a biblical life coach, started Faith Over Fear. And then a few months after that, God, led me to become a children's book author. So my husband, several years ago, he had an aunt that passed away. And that was the first person that our daughter, she was about 5 at the time, really like knew that had passed away. So when we went to tell her, she said, "Mom, do you mean the Heaven Team came to get her?" And we were like, "What is the Heaven Team?" And she says, "Isn't that the group of angels that come and get you and let you get comfortable in heaven when the doctors can't take care of you anymore because you're too sick?" And I looked at her and said, "Well, yeah, I guess that is what happened, but I had never heard of it that way." And I casually mentioned it to someone. They said, "You should turn that into a book." I said, "I don't know anything about writing a book." Well, I learned something about writing a book. And that is where the Heaven Team was born, a child's guide to love, loss, and heaven. You have our characters here, Skylar and Noah, and it takes us through the journey of loss of Noah's grandmother. And we learn about the Heaven Team, which of course is the group of angels that do let you get comfortable in heaven. And this helps to answer for families the question, how do you explain heaven to a child? Right. So we have this, we have a companion coloring book. We also have books about pet loss because we know that pets are a part of our family. So we also
Mm.
have a Heaven Team's book for pets, along with a pet remembrance journal. All those are available on Amazon. And then just on Juneteenth, about a week ago, we released our newest book, which is called Jesus is My Superhero. And I'm really proud of this one because my daughter co-wrote this. She did a lot of the lead work on this. And see, this is when we talk about modeling. You never know what your kids are picking up. So she's like, "Mom, I want to write a book." I said, "Well, let's do it." So this is the Heaven Team presents Jesus is My Superhero, another fully illustrated book, but this is in comic book style. And we have our same returning characters, Skylar and Noah, and they walk us through why Jesus should be our favorite superhero of all time. So this is our newest release. It's been received so well, just along with the original Heaven Team. All are available on Amazon. That's the easiest way to find us and get it to your homes.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
Thank
So
you.
let me ask you this. Do you have any upcoming Bible studies that are happening?
Oh my goodness. So I had a Bible study for Lenten season. We did the entire 40 days, and we had a lot of women that joined that. So stay tuned. Yes, follow me on social media as we do. People have been asking me to do a series about dealing with difficult people and how to love
Mhm.
someone that's difficult. And so I believe God is pushing me into that season. And then also, at the beginning of the year, I had a session for women about prayer boards and different things like that. And so we're going to be doing some check-ins next month also about where are you with those goals that you set. We all start out with these, my year is going to be this, and well, we're halfway through, and what's the year looking like, and how can we get back on track? So yes, I do have some things upcoming, so stay tuned. They're going to be launching in the next week or so.
Oh, I love that. Well, thank
nice.
you so much for your
Thank
honesty and your
you.
vulnerability and for
Mm,
reminding us that strong marriages aren't built because life is easy. They're built because we keep choosing each other. We keep
Yes.
choosing grace, choosing faith. And even when life doesn't go according to plan, I know today's conversation is going to encourage so many couples. Pata, do you have any closing thoughts?
just thank you so much, Nicole. This was just, I learned so much, and that's one thing I want to stress. No matter how long you've been married, you can still grow. As
Yes.
long as you have breath in your body, there's always room for growth. And I've definitely learned a lot. And you just really honed in about being intentional
Yeah.
Hmm.
and
Intentional.
just much appreciated. And
Thank
good
you
luck
so,
to
so
you
much.
with all of your endeavors.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And blessings to you all as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So it's time for this week's Heart to Heart Challenge. We believe stronger marriages are built one intentional conversation at a time. So this week, I encourage you to set aside just 10 uninterrupted minutes with your spouse and ask this question: how can I pray for you this week?
Mm.
Then don't rush to fix it. Just listen, respond with love, and let the conversation bring you closer. If today's conversation encouraged you, would you do us a favor and click like, subscribe to our channel, and share this episode with someone who needs to hear it? You never know how one conversation may change someone's marriage. So don't forget to join us for our next episode of the Stronger, Deeper Marriage Show, where we'll continue having real conversations to build stronger marriages. You don't want to miss it, because stronger marriages don't just happen by accident. They're built one intentional conversation at a time. Bye bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.